Breaking news this morning, the Justice Department has just said Attorney General Pam Bondi has directed prosecutors to seek the death penalty against Luigi Mangione. He's the man charged with killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson on a New York City street back in December.
One of the crimes Mangione is charged with is murder with a firearm, which is a capital offense under federal law. So the death penalty is a possibility. But in federal death penalty cases, it is a two-stage process. The jury not only decides guilt, but then they are the ones who ultimately decide whether the defendant lives or is put to death. It is not the judge that hands out the sentence. That's why death penalty juries have to be qualified, and it's a much more onerous process to seat a capital jury, because you have to ask them questions, difficult questions like, if the death penalty is on the table, can you actually sentence someone to death? So this is a very big decision by the federal government, maybe not a surprising one, but given how rarely over the years the federal government has sought the death penalty, it is certainly a significant decision by Pam Bondi.
What cases have there been where the federal government has been requesting the death penalty? And I'm thinking, you know, more than one person having been killed. It is unusual.
I believe that the most recent death penalty execution in the federal system was carried out in 2021, and that was related to a crime that was committed, just to give you some context, in 1996. So that's how long death penalty cases can take. And at the federal level, it's interesting because, you know, states like New York may not have the death penalty, but technically every state has, and I'm using air quotes, the death penalty, because they could be charged with a federal crime in that state and put to death, even if the state itself does not have the death penalty, as is the case with New York.
Whoa, the Trump administration wants the death penalty for Luigi Mangione. The freshly appointed U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi made an announcement today saying she has directed federal prosecutors to seek the penalty for the premeditated, cold-blooded assassination of the United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. She said Mangione murdered an innocent man and father of 2 young children. This shocked America. It was an act of political violence, and that this decision was made after careful consideration to carry out President Trump's agenda to stop violent crime and make America safe again. Mangione is due back in court April 18th. So how do you guys feel about this? I definitely think at this point, after social media has glorified Mangione into a hero and a messiah, it's important for the administration to show that they do not take this sort of violence lightly and that there will be serious consequences. But do you think the death penalty would be an appropriate course of action? Comment your thoughts.
When Bondi was sworn in as Attorney General, I said it was a matter of time before she recommended the death penalty for Luigi, and it changes things because typically, without the death penalty, a defendant would be compelled to go to trial because even if they lose, the end result would be the same, life in prison. So a journalist asked me, could this compel him to plead guilty? Maybe, because if he pled guilty, it could then compel the government to ask for life in prison rather than the death penalty, which they have just said they will ask for if he's convicted at trial. It's a new Justice Department, and they are pursuing certain crimes in a way they have not previously.
Breaking news, the Department of Justice is directing federal prosecutors to seek the death penalty for Luigi Mangione. Luigi Mangione is facing the death penalty after Attorney General Pam Bondi ordered federal prosecutors to push for the harshest punishment if he's convicted. He's accused of shooting United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in New York City last year, but instead of ensuring a fair trial, the government seems determined to make an example out of him. Meanwhile, Trump has been handing out pardons to corporate criminals left and right. He let Nikola Motors founder Trevor Milton off the hook after scamming investors. Milton was sentenced to 4 years in prison for securities and wire fraud in order to pay nearly $700 million in restitution. But instead of serving time, he was free on appeal, donated big to Trump-related groups, and surprise, surprise, his lawyer just so happened to be the brother of U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi. And Milton isn't the first fraudster Trump has pardoned, and he certainly won't be the last. Going after the death penalty for Mangione isn't about justice or stopping violent crime, no matter what the Attorney General says. It's about protecting the rich and punishing anyone who allegedly stands against them. CEOs can steal millions from us and walk away, while Mangione is being paraded in perp walks, targeted in unsanctioned documentaries, and denied a fair trial. Now he may pay with his life. The message is loud and clear. If you're powerful, you get a pardon. If you're not, you get the death penalty.
All right, you guys. Luigi Mangione is getting the death penalty because Pam Bondi says so. The U.S. General Attorney Pam Bondi Tuesday, which is today, and she directed prosecutors to seek the death penalty against Luigi Mangione in the killing of the United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, following through on the president's campaign promise to vigorously pursue capital punishment. In its first time, the Justice Department has brought the death penalty since Donald Trump returned to office in January with a vow to resume federal executions after they were halted. Luigi Mangione's murder of Brian Thompson, an innocent man and father of two young children, was a premeditated, cold blooded assassination that shocked America. In a statement, she described Thompson's killing as an act of political violence, Bundy said. Shocked America? I'm lost for words. Shocked America? Half of America was celebrating. You mean rich people were shocked? Don't let me in there. Mangione, a 26-year-old Ivy League graduate from a prominent Maryland real estate family, faces separate federal and state murder charges after authorities say he gunned down Thompson outside a Manhattan hotel on December 4th as the executive arrived for United Health annual investor conference. I guess he got stalking charges too. They're trying to say he was stalking him. The killing and ensuing 5-day manhunt leading to Mangione's arrest rattled the business community, with some health insurers hostilely switching to remote work or online shareholder meetings. It also galvanized health insurance critics, some of who have rallied around Mangione as a stand in for frustrations over coverage denials and hefty medical bills. Yep. Surveillance video showed a masked gunman shooting Thompson from behind. Police say the words delay, deny, depose were scrawled on the ammunition, mimicking a phrase commonly used to describe insurer tactics to avoid paying claims. Mangione's lawyer, Karen Friedman, can't say her last name, said today that in seeking the death penalty, the Justice Department has moved from the dysfunctional to the barbaric. Mangione is caught in a high stakes game of tug of war between state and federal prosecutors. Expect trophy is a young man's life. Wow. In a statement vowed to fight charges against him, Bondi announced her decision the same day the Trump administration began mass layoffs at federal health agencies. Of course she would. She wants attention. Mangione's federal charges included murder through use of firearm, which carries the possibility of death penalty, but not for school shooters. The state charges carry a maximum punishment of life in prison. Mangione has pled not guilty to state indictment that has not yet been required to enter a plea on federal charges. Prosecutors have said the two cases will proceed on parallel tracks, with the state case expected to go to trial first. It was immediately clear if Pam's announcement would change the order. Okay, so Mangione was arrested December 9th, like we all know, in Altoona at a McDonald's. Okay. Uh, Police said Mangione had a 9mm handgun that matched the one he used in the shooting and other items, including a notebook. Among the entries, prosecutors said, was one from August 2024 that said the target is insurance because it checks every box, and one from October that describes the intent to whack an insurance CEO. United Healthcare, the largest U.S. health insurer, has said Mangione was never a client. His attorney has said she would seek to suppress some of the evidence. Former President Joe Biden Justice Department filed a federal case against Mangione, but left it to Trump and his administration to decide whether to seek the death penalty, because the federal case had been taking a back seat to the state case. Federal prosecutors have yet to seek a grand jury indictment, which is required for capital cases. But hell, what do I know? I'm just a talking head. Have a great day, YouTube.
What's up, TikTok? I don't agree with the DOJ trying to give Luigi the death penalty for the assassination on a healthcare CEO. I feel like they coming down hard on him. Why not just give him life? Or I feel like he's innocent. In some instances, he might end up beating this case, or he might be guilty. But y'all trying to give this man the death penalty after standing on business. And it's the fact that when them school shootings happen, or they get a school shooter, he never get the death penalty. The school shooter always catches a life sentence. So what is the difference from him doing that to the healthcare CEO and somebody going into school doing that? That's not fair. I really feel like they're trying to make an example out of Luigi because they see Luigi has a cult following. They see he has a big following. A lot of people was happy he did what he did, allegedly. I don't know if it's true or not he did what he did. I'm hoping he didn't. They don't understand that Luigi has a rich family and they not just gonna let him get the death penalty. So they gonna fight to save Luigi's life. Will Luigi end up losing his life? Probably not. But is there a high chance of this happening to Luigi? Yes. Did Luigi do it? In my mind, no. But when you go look at the video of the assassination, it was like a hit, like a paid hit. Like it was a paid hit man. Luigi not no paid hit man. He too rich to look like a paid hit man. Come on now. His family got a lot of money, man. Why would he do that to himself? First of all, why would he put himself in a predicament where he could lose his life or go to prison for forever? It makes no sense.
Attorney General Pam Bondi is now pushing for the death penalty for Luigi Mangione. Luigi Mangione was the man who is unfortunately going to be convicted for gunning down the CEO of United Healthcare. His name was Brian. In a statement today, Pamela reminded everyone of Mangione's alleged crime, the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, calling it a premeditated, cold-blooded assassination that shocked America. And she's ordering the now acting U.S. Attorney Matthew to do this, to push for this. Now, people have been calling him Robin Hood. People have been alluding to how, he's very loved. He's characterized very negatively in the public eye, and that, people love him and that he did everybody a favor. But then there's also the ones that realize that this could be someone who murdered someone. So as always, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you agree with Pamela's order to push for the death penalty in this case? Do you agree in an eye for an eye? Or do you just think that, hey, maybe he's not even guilty of this?
Super quick update about Luigi Mangione. So one of the charges, using a firearm in a murder, now it could carry the death penalty for Luigi. If he is found guilty, that is the maximum sentence he might face. It's pretty crazy, man.
Well, it looks like the death penalty is officially on the table for Luigi Mangione. The Attorney General, Pam Bondi, has officially asked New York prosecutors to seek the death penalty in his federal case. We thought this was a possibility. He's been in federal custody partially because of this reason. His team added an extra lawyer who specializes in this just in case. He's got life in prison as the maximum sentence in his state case, which is just around the corner. He's also facing charges in Pennsylvania to a much smaller degree. So those are the big cases that he is looking at right now. He's going to be back in court in April on this federal case on April 18th. He's also going to be back in court in his state case at the end of June. He did just get a little bit of a win right now. The judge has allowed him to have a laptop in custody to go over all of this discovery for his case.